And that sound means the start of another Missile for the Masses. This is the Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod, and I'm your host, Gary, and with me, as usual, is
Casey from Podcasts from the Pit.
And on this Missile, we are discussing May 2024, the Skybound Energon Universe offerings, starting with the Free Comic Book Day Energon Universe, then Transformers issue number 8, Void Rivals issue number 9, and closing out with Cobra Commander number 5. And Casey, how you been? It's been a couple weeks since we last recorded.
Pretty good. Getting ready to go on vacation really soon. So, yeah.
Yeah, got anywhere special going on your vacation, Casey?
I am going to Joe Fest.
No way, really? I'm going to be there too.
Yes. I'm pretty excited. It's year number 4 in a row for me. So it's, I don't know, every year gets better, a little bit more special. So I expect big things from this year.
Yeah, there's a lot of new things going on at Joe Fest with Super 7 making a big appearance this year there. And all the smaller independents like Delta 17, uh, Grindstone Toys, and then just everybody, like Carson Metaxas with Call Sign Longbow and the Art of GI Joe. So there's going to be a lot of small guys there showcasing what's new and now in the world of O-Ring. But I know that there's also going to be lots of classified, although we are probably not the two best suited to discuss about that.
No, probably not. But I mean, I know they're going to have a whole panel full of YouTube guys discussing classified, and I'll probably go to that because I like all the guys doing it.
Yeah, and that's a great thing. As much as it is a sales floor, it is also just a great community gathering where we can uh, shoot the shit, clink some drinks, and just hang out for 2, 3, or more days. And I'm going to be there. Getting there Thursday night, and looking forward to being there Friday and Saturday before heading home on Sunday. So hanging out, talking Joe and other military and adventure toy lines.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. I'm getting in Thursday afternoon, not leaving till Monday morning. So I'm going to make the most of my Joe Fest time like last year.
Yeah, that's great. Go there and hang out with a whole bunch of people. The one chink in the plan is Destro number 1 comes out this Wednesday, and I think both of us are going to be traveling.
Yes.
So I will not be able to, at least I won't be able to be at my local comic shop to get all the wonderful variants and exclusives. So Casey's driving, and he might swing by and pick up a copy for me to read Thursday night.
Yeah. As long as I get to, I'm assuming there's a comic shop in West Virginia somewhere close to where I'll be on Wednesday.
Yeah, and even then, if we're hanging out Friday morning, afternoon with waiting for the show to open, we know the
Yeah,
local haunts.
yeah, yeah. There'll be a couple nice places there, so I'm sure we'll get them before I get it. I'm like you. I am going to get mine regardless from my local comic shops, but I want to read it now.
Yes, and it always beats to hold it rather than just read it on a digital screen.
Right.
And I think that's a good enough lead in to the books in hand. And like I said earlier, the first book we will talk about is the Free Comic Book Day Energon Universe Special. Came out on Free Comic Day, which was May the 4th. It was also kind of sort of reprinted as the Energon Universe Special and that was the following Wednesday on May 8th. Um, I know from my local comic shop, the owner wasn't too thrilled, when he didn't realize it was the same book, and, he was like, "Oh, I wish they had told us," and, that's, I think that just speaks, to the fact that I think Skybound expected, during Free Comic Book Day for most shops to run out of the free comic books.
I'm sure, yeah. I didn't even know they were gonna have a free comic book, but my shop pulled me one anyway, so I was pretty thankful for that.
Yeah, no, my shop doesn't do do pulls on free comic book day stuff. So I basically, I work Saturday, so I had to uh, bust my bust my butt down to grab a copy before potentially it dried up. I've been burned in the past by my work schedule of missing it on the free comic book day stuff. Not always Joe. There's some other books that I do like to collect, and just sometimes you just got to make it happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and Casey's dogs are barking up a storm because they're really excited about the Energon universe too. So the big thing about the Energon universe special is it is a series of essentially three vignettes, three shorter stories from across the Energon universe with a Transformers tale, a Void Rivals tale, and a GI Joe tale. And I'll summarize them quickly in order. But first, the cover description of the Free Comic Book Day is we have an portrait of Megatron by Ryan Otley, uh, best known for his long tenure on the Invincible comic book series. Uh, you know, Megatron's fusion cannon is smoking. Uh, Megatron is backlit, so his front is in shadow, but of course, we get to see that purple Decepticon logo. It is, I would say, it's a dirtier look than what I'm used to from Ryan Otley's run on Invincible, but so it blends well with what Daniel Warren Johnson set as the tone. But otherwise, it is just a good portrait of him standing up, and he's got like energy coming up his feet and just really menacing. Casey, what do you think?
I think it's a great cover. I mean, everything you just described. He's still got the cannon arm for now. It looks amazing. I was excited to read it. That's a good cover when you're just can't wait to open it up and read it.
Yeah, it's definitely points to the care or the level of energy towards this series or these properties. And start off with the Transformers story. Daniel Warren Johnson, the writer, Ryan Otley, the artist, and Annalise Leone, the colorist. And it opens up with Megatron in battle against the Autobots, blowing away one of my childhood toys, Brawn, and then him in Prime doing battle, getting hurt by Prime, but eventually, when Prime has him on the ropes, Starscream finishes the job and kicks him off the arc, and Megatron tumbles to Earth. Prime had cut Megatron's right arm off with that energy axe that he has, first saw in the 1986 movie. And, that's how Megatron lost his arm. And, Starscream shoots him and kicks him. He tumbles to Earth. And that's where we transition to essentially the present day where Megatron wakes up in Cobra Law and makes his escape, at this time with no arms. And it finally explains what happened to his left arm. They had taken it off after he spares, a fleshling's life. I don't know what else to call them. I don't think they're humans. And he grabs, gets his arm, and leaves. And Globulus is pissed. I mean, a lot of good action in it. Uh, it felt like I didn't know, and I really don't want to spoil anything because this was the first one to come out in May. So I was really hyped to see, what parts of these stories they were going to integrate into the Transformers book. The art, Ryan Otley's art can be dynamic. It it also did transition a little bit from that dirty independent look to a more clean look at a couple points, and it switched back and forth, but it was done really well, really energetic, a lot of emotion on the page, and Daniel Warren Johnson with his scripting has really been doing a bang up job.
Yeah, and he's taken after Robert Kirkman because he's killing off a lot of my favorite characters. Right? I mean, Braun doesn't make it through the first page, and Braun was one of my favorites as a kid.
Yeah, it's we if you've if you're listening to this and this is your first time listening to the Chaplain's Motorpod or any podcast regarding the Transformers series, there's no one has been safe.
No,
I like that because for me, that just makes things unexpected and surprising, and it's good to have a feeling of you don't know what's going to happen next. There's no spoilers, there's no plot armor.
yeah, no, I like it. It gives it a little bit more suspense, knowing nobody's safe. To me, I mean, it's just like reading Walking Dead. Nobody was ever safe in that, no matter what character.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, it was well put together. I'm just going to say uh if Ryan Otley was to take over Transformers with the next issue, I wouldn't be surprised at all. It fits in well with Daniel Warren Johnson, and he did a good job. I thought it was a very solid story. It was really high quality. Um, not much more to say at the moment about this. I'm tapped out. What about you, Casey?
Well, since we've been reading Transformers since the Energon universe started, I mean, this really filled in some blank spaces that I missed. Wondering what happened to Megatron, why was he in Cobra Law? Now we know. Uh, and it's really cool where Prime took his arm, so we know how Prime got his arm now, why he's using it.
Yeah. All right. I think the next up, we'll talk quickly about Void Rivals, and it opens up with Skuxoid on a beautiful splash page. And just to go back, Void Rivals is written by Robert Kirkman with art by Lorenzo De Felici and Matthias Lopez, the colorist. And it opens up with this beautiful like splash page, but just like a portrait of Skuxoid. And I really just want to say it is probably, I don't know. It opens up and I just think it's beautiful. It's it reminds me of those 25th anniversary Marvel covers where you had Menasor for the Transformers, you had Snake Eyes for GI Joe, and then you had all the other characters, Wolverine for the X-Men, and Iron Man and Captain America and stuff like that. And it just reminded me of that, and it was just so painterly and just so much beautiful detail, which this character does not rate.
Right.
But then we go on. He's trying to find out what's going on, why people are looking for this rare alloy, and then once it's mentioned that Zertonian, then we get surprise. Hot Rod has been hiding in the shadows, trying to get the information of what's going on. Skuxoid does not like his uh, his, I don't know what you would call him, a bargainer or the guy holding him up,
His broker.
his broker, and working with the Cybertronians. And it's just like a little quiet moment. And, and Skuxoid's just like, screw this. I've had enough. And he walks away. He's like, I'm going home to my wife and kids. And there's just like, I don't know what it is at the very final panel. It is as you expected, my lord. It does not look like a transformer. It looks like it's probably something from the Void Rivals universe that we haven't been introduced yet. So I don't know. I thought it was a good in between, right after that action packed Transformers story. It was nice to have a slower spot to juxtapose and just to give the reader like a little bit of talking heads, wordiness, just explain what's going on behind the scenes, setting up for the next bigger story.
Yeah, I mean, out of the three, it was I would say it was the weaker story, but I mean, it was still good. I thought it was, for being in a three-story issues, just the right length, sandwiched in between the other two.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I would say this would be like something called like, a character story.
Hmm.
You're reading a lot more in between the lines. But like I said, it was just like you said, it is, you know, what I would consider the weakest two of the three stories because there's not a lot of action. But that doesn't mean that, when you're reading, Transformers and G.I. Joe and you have battles and every story, to get something like this, it's kind of like, oh, come on, because you're just used to that like action movie mentality.
Right, and I would say weak is probably because as of right now, it's still I have least invested in Void Rivals. I mean, I've got 40 years of Joe and Transformers.
Yeah, and the use of Skuxoid is really the glue that's tying me
Hmm.
together, and they've actually made him like a really interesting character, and I actually like the character because he just seems to that final line of him going to see his wife and kids is just like, he's just like a guy just trying to make a buck in this universe.
Yep.
All right, I guess now we'll finish up with the final story of Duke pursuing the Baroness. The Baroness is rogue. She has no one to answer for. They restate, that she was a debutante and now she's a terrorist. She's made enemies everywhere. She's attacked by two assailants. They look kind of like ninja and they seem to have energy swords for all the Blue Ninja fans out there in listener land. And she gets away mainly because Duke rescues her on a motorcycle. And they get away and Duke recruits her to the Joe team. She even says Yo Joe in a red, white, and blue uniform that's much more modernized than what we're used to seeing in the traditional G.I. Joe 1984 sense. Then we get to Hawk, where it is revealed that those two ninja-like assailants was Lady J and Flint from the Joe team, and Hawk is actually building two GI Joe teams, and Duke's team is being kept in the dark about the other. So, Casey, tell me what you thought about this one.
Well, it was a shorter story, a lot of action for the length of the book, a lot of intrigue. I like the whole two Joe teams. I think that's going to be fun down the line. Uh, Baroness as a Joe, that's I don't know, that could work because in this she has no allegiance to Cobra. So that's not, or Destro that we know of.
Right.
But I love the part where he's going through the dossiers and of not just Joe's, but he focuses it on Destro and the Crimson Twins, Dreadnoks. I mean, it's just like foreshadow of things to come. I expect big things from the GI Joe Energon universe.
Yeah.
They've not disappointed.
Yeah, and going back to the dossiers, uh, the panel with Destro, there is a photograph on top of Destro's, and did you notice that it's the mass device?
Yeah,
And then looking, there's a larger panel above it with, basically looking down on Hawk's desk. And I've identified, in his hand is Scarlet, but we have, it looks like Rock and Roll, Baroness, Covergirl, Stalker, and then there's somebody that looks like they got like a hat or a helmet. It looks, I almost want to say it's Big Ben, but the facial hair makes it almost look like Clutch, and I haven't decided who it really is yet. Could also be like Red Star.
in my head it's Clutch,
Okay.
but I mean the helmet made me think October Guard. So I don't know.
That'd be an interesting addition to this universe. That would be because that would also be interesting because Hasbro hasn't announced any October Guard figures yet.
True. Yeah, that might be some classified figures I get. I don't know.
Yeah, it's easier to collect. You start off by saying, "Oh yeah, I'm only going to get the sub teams," and next thing you know, you've dove back into that pool. So overall, I can say that the Energon Universe Free Comic Book Day special was definitely worth every penny I paid for it
Yeah.
because it was free. And no, it was a solid book.
Oh yeah.
The three stories were all engaging. The Transformer story is half the book, so it did leave less page time for Void Rivals or GI Joe. But each story was entertaining in its own way. Uh, And you really can't say that the Transformers story was solely Transformers because it had Cobra Law, and I'm not gonna apologize for Cobra Law. I love it, so there's my more dose of GI Joe in there too.
Right. Yeah. No, it was great. And the more they show Cobra Law in these books, the more I like them.
So I hope other minds are changing too to yours about accepting Cobra Law into their GI Joe universe. I'm all for more GI Joe stories, more GI Joe universes. It's like ice cream. There's not a bad flavor. So, just one other thing too is so the following Wednesday they did release the Energon Universe 2024 special. It had an A cover and a B cover, but the incentive covers were GI Joe related. The 1 in 10 was the Baroness in front of the GI Joe star, and she's firing off her pistols, as she's dodging bullets. Um, a neat little cover. And then the 1 in 25 was Flint and Lady J parachuting,
Oh, nice.
to the battle. And I got to say they're both awesome. And the Flint and Lady J one actually was just beautiful. Can't get enough of I can't get enough of GI Joe covers. So also on May 8th was Transformers number 8. The cover is Elita 1. And she's a Transformers. She had a lot more page time from my experience in the later IDW continuity when it became, oh God, the Revolutions universe. When they merged, when IDW did all that stuff. The covers by Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer, the colorist. And it's just her sitting, or standing on, I guess, Cybertron, if we read the book. She's battle worn, she's scarred all over. There's a moon in her background. And It's just a nice image.
Yeah, it's a great cover. I like that gritty Cybertron look.
Yeah, I mean the grid is real in this. It's I really like the independent artist, the bent that's been in this book the entire time. And there's really never been a bad A cover with any of these books.
Mm-mm.
So the story really is opening back up in a quiet moment with Carly and Spike talking, and Carly's just trying to make peace with the fact that Cliff Jumper did not off Starscream when he had the chance. She's kind of pissed about it.
Oh yeah,
And we then go to Cybertron, where it brings us back to Lita One, who we were introduced last issue, and she's carrying Ultra Magnus out of the Decepticon den, and she promises that they're not going to get captured. And so after that page, it brings us to an aircraft carrier. And real quick, Casey, did you initially think before reading the caption that we had finally gotten to the flag?
oh yeah. I'm like flag. Oh no, it's not.
So we have the USS Henry Harrison, which you hope it's going to be the flag, but you're going to be realize that it's better that it's not going to be.
Right.
The Decepticons invade it, led by Soundwave, and I'm trying to think which. So we Skywarp. So I think it's Thundercrackers, the remaining original Seeker left.
I think so. Yeah.
So he, in a rare moment of Decepticon, pity or whatever, they let the fleshlings go, and they all abandon ship. But Soundwave is just like, you know, channeling at this point Shockwave. Yeah, it's just the cold logic of it, and he just like murders everybody. So freaking brutal.
Oh yeah.
Uh, just and I mean, I have to admit, I was shocked by him letting the sailors go, and then next thing you know, Soundwave's like, yes, sorry, everybody died, no witnesses, and it's just like it's a small panel, but it's so brutal.
Oh yeah.
It felt impactful. So then we go to the Ark, and Wheeljack's trying to get by Skywarp, who's like, he's been embedded in Teletran 1. He's like, screw you guys, I'm not letting you get into Teletran 1. It's like defiance to the end, even though his own Decepticons, turned on him.
Right. Yeah.
So Carly gets a rocket launcher from somewhere, and she fires it at Skywarp slash Teletran 1, only for RC to stop it herself and, with her chest. But after this damage, something happens, and it's not really fully explained. Wheeljack gets his legs back, and Carly's just like, after all that loss, to see an Autobot get repaired, she's very disheartened and she's still upset, and she storms off, and the RC goes to counsel her, and we kind of leave from there, and then we go back to the USS Henry Harrison, where Soundwave has sunk the ship. See, that's why we didn't want it to be the flag,
Nope.
and then the Constructicons are going to use it as they raise the Nemesis. And it's the Nemesis. For anybody that's not following along with us, I do know one listener that is behind on the Transformers books, but he does enjoy listening. So the Nemesis is that purple spaceship from the Transformers cartoon from 1985 that was underwater, and it had the little, the long ass elevator that poked up through the water, and they all flew in. Optimus Prime is sleeping. He's dreaming of Spike coloring and walking and all in birth. He's not sure what's happening, but you know, we as the readers know that that's from Sparky entering the Matrix.
Yep.
And Optimus Prime gets up, walks over to Jetfire, who's been revived, but only in jet mode. And Jetfire's like everything's black, so he's conscious, but he's locked into this body. He's locked into this shape. Reminds me of that song by Metallica, "One,"
Yeah.
which is being trapped in your own body. And Optimus stays by Jetfire so that Jetfire doesn't feel lonely. Really, really giving us some humanity to Optimus in this book. We go back to the Nemesis, and next thing you know, Astro Train has been captive there for however long the Transformer's been on Earth. Astro Train's just been like, hanging out, locked up. And, he's mad at Megatron, but Soundwave's the leader now, so he gives Astro Train a mission. And they don't really go into the details so much. Flashback over to the Ark, and because of the Nemesis coming out, because of Astro Train, being awoken or something like to that effect, the Autobots know where the Decepticons are, and they fly off. Jazz, Cliffjumper, and Ratchet. They fly off in Jetfire, and then we close out with finally Soundwave making contact with Cybertron, and lo and behold, it's Shockwave.
Yep.
A lot of intense little moments in this book. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The art is still Jorge Corona. He's still doing a heck of a job penciling this. Uh,
Oh yeah.
and Daniel Warren Johnson's plot and the way he's been weaving in and out, back and forth. This book is still a real page turner.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real easy read from page to page. That's just Prime. The way he takes care of Jetfire, I thought that was really nice. Uh, but seeing Shockwave at the end, that was fantastic. And Astro Train just beat the brakes off of Thundercracker. I thought that was pretty cool. Just a lot. I mean, there's a lot to take in these 22 pages or however many.
Yeah, it's I really like Daniel Warren Johnson's writing style. I like the way that every book feels fresh. Um, every book kind of fills you in. It's a very old school um, way of writing a comic book. I really like the fact because like it feels like I can pick up any issue and read it and immediately know where we left off or get filled in on something that I might have missed. You know, and then but then also if this is collected as a trade paperback, it flows as well,
Right.
which is a really hard talent to do.
I even though I have all the issues, I'm probably still going to buy the first Transformers trade just so I can keep rereading that one and keep my floppies in good condition. Because I think it's a great story, and I'm not the biggest Transformers fan in the world, but I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, granted we got in on the ground floor, but when Revolutions came out with IDW, I made a point to grab all the series. Now, Revolutions was GI Joe and Transformers, which merged, and then they launched ROM, Micronauts, and Mask, and then the Revolutionaries, which was like the combination of all the teams. And so I picked up the Transformers had two titles. So you had the Optimus Prime, and then they had the Transformers. They were wrapping up the original Transformers series and then rolling it into Transformers Lost Light. I was completely lost on the Transformers, Lost Light books. The Optimus Prime book was not bad at the issue number one to jump in on. They told a new story with the Junkions, but it wasn't a very welcoming series. Even like, Lost Light, it's issue number one. It's like, so you expect to pick up issue number one and be like, okay, you can get kind of filled in on what happened in the previous series. You know, you open it up and Megatron is an Autobot and there's no background of it like, oh yeah, remember when you changed over to being an Autobot and Optimus Prime convinced your ways were evil? There was none of that. And it was just like, oh, okay, I guess he's just an Autobot now. And I just have to accept that. So I really think my biggest surprise from all of this, Energon universe continues to be Transformers. It really deserves the praise it gets. I really think it deserves the sales it gets. And, you know, I think that energy, uh, really carries itself well for the rest of the Energon universe titles.
Oh yeah, like I said, I've had no disappointments yet in the Energon universe. Some issues are better than others, but I mean, as far as a whole, I think it's fantastic.
I'm ready to switch over to Void Rivals.
I'm good to go.
Yeah, so Void Rivals issue number 9 was released on May 22nd, 2024. We had a 1 week break for G.I. Joe Real American Hero. And so the cover of Void Rivals, number 9, is Springer, cover A, Autobot Springer in green. And I have to admit, it's a good, strong cover. He's just like in one of those heroic poses. He's kneeling on his right knee. He's getting up on his left leg. He's got his right fist clenched, and his left fist is like by his hip, ready to punch. And he's just got this stern look. It's a nice, strong uh, portrait of this character. Now, Casey, are you familiar with Springer at all?
Not too much, no.
I do remember this because from some internet chatter back in the day, there was a book by IDW called the Wreckers or the Last Stand of the Wreckers, and Springer was one of them. And this every Transformers fan really loved this book.
Hmm.
I did not read it myself, and apparently everybody loves Springer. So he's a really popular character. One of those things is like how Chuckles and GI Joe. Chuckles came out in 1987. He was an also ran.
Right,
Didn't even have a voice in the movie, and now everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, Chuckles is the best character ever." And it's not that he's not a bad character or he's a good character. It's just he got used in a story, highlighting him and making him a realized character.
yeah,
And sometimes people just can't do that themselves. So by having a positive, appearance in media, boosts their popularity.
right.
So Springer kind of had the same thing. And if I got it wrong, send me angry emails at chaplinjoebot@gmail.com, or you can find me on social media, chaplinjoebot. Uh, the plot's really simple on this one. So Lila and Derek or Dalek, they're trying to get to that neutral zone in between their two halves of their world, and then the next thing we go to is, we get to my pal Skuxoid. He gets home, finishing up that storyline from the free comic book day special, and then it gets really depressing fast
Yeah,
when you realize that there's nobody home. I'm sorry, but Kirkman and DeFelici, you guys did my boy wrong. And it's just beautiful. It's just beautiful artwork. I gotta admit, I really think uh, Lorenzo De Felici really found the characters uh, now on this book because I'm much more identifying them, and everything's just this is some really beautiful line work, and even the coloring by Patricio Del Pesce is this is a really like sometimes Void Rivals I'm like, oh, it's almost like an also ran, and you got to remember the quality on these books is pretty high, so being an also ran can be really spectacular for some other publishers. So he gets there. So Lila retracts that spear that was in her. She's bled out a lot. He finds this place where he's been before, and for him that's hope, because he traveled this void a long time ago, and I'm talking about Derek,
Yeah.
and and they come across this shed of some sorts, and that's where they discover Springer, and it's really amusing at this point because Springer doesn't know that these guys are they're aliens, they're flesh and bone, and because they got the metallic helmets on, and you have Handroid. So Springer's even confused by Handroid, and it's a touching, amusing, and a little bit of pragmatism too, as as Springer tries to help them solve their dilemma, only to be like, well, I can't really help you. I'm not equipped to deal with you guys. I'm equipped to deal with other Transformers. And then it's Proximus versus Springer, and the fight is much more even than you would think with a human-sized alien life form, uh, fighting a 30-foot transformer. So it's a lot more evenly matched than you'd think, and it's a well done match. With you know, at one point, Springer tries to basically stab Proximus with his giant swords, but Proximus is able to deflect it and climb up it, and you know just be an even match. And then they're basically still fighting where it ends in this scene with them finding this little green bottle on Solila, and he doesn't know what's going on. But that's where that scene ends, and then it brings us to Quintessa, and then you have the Quintesson talking to, oh gosh, I do not even know what the name of this is. Uh, one of their like little helper robots with all the little tentacles coming out of the arms. He mentions Zerta Tryon, and then the Quintessons, you know, zap him to bits, and somehow Zerta Tryon is the name that shall not be named, like Voldemort.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
And and that's where it ends. This is one of my favorite issues of Void Rifles,
Yeah.
and I think Springer had something to do with it, but I just really think it was a good balance of just story and action.
Yeah. And even though we forgot his name there, Proximus, I think, villain, bounty hunter, not really sure what he is yet, but obviously he's really tough to go up against Springer.
Yeah, and it also makes you think about what's going to happen when the GI Joes universe starts merging in with this Void Rivals universe. Are we going to have like these guys are a lot stronger than humans?
Hmm.
Because there's no way that Snake Eyes could deflect that kind of
Yeah.
giant ass sword. And really, the only complaint I have about this book is towards the end, the second to last page of the fight between Proximus and Springer, is Lorenzo did this almost full page of Springer, and it looks, I don't know, not well rendered. But other than that, I mean, like the Skuxoid family, the Skuxoid home was just, I mean, I'm sorry, that was beautiful. And but this one panel is the only thing that really just like hit me like, it doesn't really belong. But but other than that though, this book's been really good.
Yeah, and I always like the conversations of Handroid. I think underrated character.
Yeah, it's Handroid is completely underrated. Handroid is his own character, and
Hmm.
it's been a this was a solid, like I said, this was it was a really good issue of Void Rivals, and it sets up for issue number 10. And I want to pick up issue number 10 because I want to know the outcome of this fight. I want to know the outcome of Salila, and what's the deal with Zerto Tryon.
Right. Very good book. I usually say it every month. It's good, but weakest out of all of them. And being what was there 3 or 4 Energon books a month, if they're all great, so being the fourth best book is still great.
Yeah, but like this one, this May was like my strongest month as I read these. Like these were all really good books. There wasn't a sleeper amongst them,
Mm-mm.
but really it all leads to one book for as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
And that's Cobra Commander number 5, also from May 22nd. We're closing out on this one because, well, it's a G.I. Joe themed podcast. And yeah, so issue number 5, I'm going to talk about 3 covers. I'm going to talk about cover A, where we have Cobra Commander on like a balcony or stage looking out, and you have this big red carpet in the middle that's clean, and then on either side are just legions of Cobra troops, uh, you know at attention like stormtroopers from Star Wars, when uh, Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader walks it.
The Emperor.
Yeah, the Emperor. Yeah, and they're all lined up on either side. Reminds me of that. It's a good image. It's Cobra Commander's in charge. Cobra Commander has his legions. It's not quite like that in the comic book, but we'll get to it. But it's a really strong cover.
I thought it was great, and I did get that Star Wars kind of feel to it. I just think, wow, what a huge red carpet that is.
Yeah, and I think it's just that for artistic effect.
Yeah.
The carpet, as you look at it, seems to be wide enough to have, you know, 2 hisses side by side, which seems to be
Hmm.
overly wide for something of this sort. But I think it's done mainly for to frame Cobra Commander, the shot of his back. And then I'll talk about cover B by Mateus Santaluco, and it is Destro in Cobra Commander's helmet, in the reflection of Cobra Commander's helmet. And, Destro kind of has red eyes. And this image gave me that Devil's Due vibe, that early Devil's Due vibe
Oh
when
yeah.
we were introduced to Destro's son. Oh man, I can't now. His name's escaping me now.
Right.
Ooh,
I was just sitting there trying to think of it too.
but
Things did
yeah,
not work out for him.
no, it did not. Oh man. Yeah, but has that Devil's Due era vibe of Destro's son. The way the inking, the structure. It is, but that's just Destro. The Cobra Commander himself is very traditional. You know, it's it's really good, but it's just the way the whole thing's done. It's probably it's arguably better than the cover A.
Yeah, I would say so.
And then the final one I have is the 1 in 10 cover, and it's Cobra Commander standing out front, of the Cobra legions. You have the Cobra troopers, and then you have the G.I. Joe classified HasLab classified his tank in the background. and they look like they're in that Mars headquarters from the Duke series in front of it. Yeah, this one is by Chris Burnham and Brian Reber, and it's a good image, but it doesn't give that same feeling as cover A of Cobra Commander has his legions and his things, and unless you've been following the story, it doesn't really convey that Cobra Commander and Mars are together. So it's a good image, but I'm going to vote because I got three covers to choose from. I'm going to say that the cover B by with the Destro and the reflection of Destro and Cobra Commander's mask. That's my favorite one. I'm gonna do it right now.
Yeah, it's mine too. I was happy to pick that one up.
I guess to summarize the plot of Cobra Commander. So some time has passed since issue 4 of Cobra Commander. You could almost say that all of the Duke series happened in between those two issues. And it really opens up with Mars facilities, blowing up under attack, no witnesses left. And Destro is, you know, kind of upset with what's going on. He doesn't know what's happening
Yep.
when two of his soldiers bring him for the first time a prisoner who happens to be the Dreadnought Ripper. So Ripper's there to deliver a message to Destro from the commander to coordinates to meet up. So Destro has Mercer round up his best men. They helicopter over there. They land in what appears to be a peaceful little town. And, you know, Ripper's like, you guys don't understand this. This isn't, this is, you guys are no idea what you guys are walking into. And Destro's like, yeah, whatever. You're not tricking me. And then next thing you know, lasers take out everybody except for Destro, Mercer, and Ripper. And then next thing you know, it's Cobra Commander's there in like that trench coat, and wide brimmed hat outfit. And then Cobra Commander parlays his way into a partnership with Destro. The big thing is Cobra Commander shows Destro the energy that he's able to power up the bats with, courtesy of Dr. Laszlo Vandermeer, who's like, he's whispering to Mercer, "Kill me, please."
Yeah.
It's and then they walk out after this, and then Cobra Commander's like, "Here, let me show you what they can do," and just murders his own troops. And Destro's like, what the hell?"
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's like what, the Cobra Commander's like, yeah, keeps them on their toes. It's like what? It's like this is so. It's like so he's so evil in this. And but Destro's like, well, I guess you got what I need, and so they launched this partnership, and Cobra Commander just like, I don't think Destro really knows what he's gotten into yet.
No.
They go into the hallway where you see the hall where Cobra Commander addresses his troops, but his troops are much more like militia members. They look, they're not, in uniform or anything, but they just look like, regular Americans that, are disgruntled. They have their guns and stuff and their baseball caps and their t-shirts, but nothing, they don't look like soldiers, at least yet. And, now, that really ends Cobra Commander's story in this book. And then we get like an epilogue at Cobra Law, and it's Globulus like pissed Megatron has escaped. And then Pythona, boards one of their little organic kind of creatures with the Royal Guards and heads out into space. And it's and it's I gotta admit, the final splash page of that little Cobra ship going into space is beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I didn't mention in the beginning, this is Josh Williamson as the writer, Andrea Milana as the artist, and Annalisa Leone as the colorist. So, and I want to say bravo. The art on this book, all 5 issues, has been absolutely, terrific. Uh, you know, very clean, very, you know, modern. Just, you know, it's just this has been, very pleasing to the eye as a, as a Joe book. I've loved it.
yeah. And one of my favorite little parts out of the Cobra Commander story is when he was telling Ripper that he can leave, and Ripper refuses because he knows he gets shot in the back, and Cobra Commander's like, "Oh, you do have some brains."
Yeah,
I just thought that was a nice little.
a nice little thing, and it also still leaves you guessing. So it's like, would he actually have done that, or no? Is this just all part of his mind games of being able to control people and control the situation? The one the This Cobra Commander has been a master of manipulation, a master of persuasion. Um, really, you know, knowing how to manipulate people to get what he wants, but also being ruthless in his pursuit of getting what he wants too. So he uses subtlety when he needs it, and he uses outright force when he needs it. He knows when to do two things. This Cobra Commander is unlike any we've ever seen.
Yeah, he's not your Sunbow Cobra Commander.
He's not Sunbow, he's not Marv, he's not Larry Hama's. I don't know about you, but when I read GI Joe comics, when I read even the Transformers comics, I hear the Sunbow voices in my head all the time. This Cobra Commander book was the first one that really, really started me thinking, is like, this shouldn't be Chris Latta's voice. This should be this is a different person, 100%.
Yeah. Now I still heard Chris Latta in a Starscream,
Oh, well,
but not
not anymore.
Cobra Commander.
Yeah, but the other thing too is, and I'm really I just love the fact that they've built this universe, and they've brought in so many things from here and there and everywhere, and it's being built organically. Nothing feels forced. Just and I have to admit, like I watched the movie as a 7-year-old. So Cobra Law to me wasn't anything, like, oh, this is the end of GI Joe for me. I was 7. I was like, this is awesome. Like anybody that says Cobra Law was the end, and they will defend the when they went into the River Styx with Ramses and Ra, I'm sorry if you guys can defend that, from 1985, but oh, Cobra Law was the end of it. Granted, it wasn't the best name. Just ask Chuck Dixon,
Yeah,
but like it as a s it just belongs, I mean, I get it. The Lunar Tex aliens weren't for me when I was 14, but still, it's like, this is all stuff as kids that, it could all be brought in. Like I said, we're not going into space. We can still run into the Lunar Tex aliens.
yeah. Let's hope not.
Coming soon to GI Joe Classified
Right.
Space Force or
I mean, the Energon universe makes me care about Cobra Law.
yeah, I know. The Energon
It
universe will make you care about Star Brigade, Eco Warriors, Drug Elimination Force.
I don't know. Uh, Those are some deep cuts that I don't. I'm hoping they don't get to.
Oh god. Oh, I needed that. That was a good laugh. Oh, man. Uh, sorry, I'm still thinking about that
No, it's
stuff.
good.
It's also cool because you have, like, the planet Cybertron, this techno, it's a technical, it's a robotic, it's a machinery home. And then, like any good foil, you have the completely organic area of Cobra La,
Hmm.
completely juxtaposing. Like, these two things are made to be, fight each other, to be antagonists to one another. So it's a really smart play to have something like that for long-term storytelling. And it's great too because they keep it small and in bite-sized chunks. So this way, if you're not the biggest Cobra Law fan, it doesn't really truly disrupt the story.
Yeah, but you know, I didn't care for Cobra Law in the movie. I've said that. I'll always say that. Maybe if I rewatch it again now, I would like it a little better. But thanks to these comics, I will be looking for a couple of the Royal Guardsmen at Joe Fest because I don't have any.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, that was like when we covered the first time we did the Cobra Commander series. I went to do the picture for the book, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me get a my globulus out, let me get my Cobra Commander out, and then I'm like, oh, let me get my Royal Guards out. I'm going through and I'm going through. Like, I only have one. It's like because I didn't like you. It's just like, oh, I didn't really care. But now it's like, oh, now I gotta have a few. I gotta army build these guys.
Yeah, I have Nemesis Enforcer. He's the only Cobra Law I have, and I didn't get him till we were on vacation in Florida for our anniversary this past year.
Okay, it a no Joe left behind type of deal.
It was the coolest Joe I didn't have at this toy store, and it was a nice toy store, but got a lot of Joes.
This is a long way of me getting to this point. Is they must be doing something right because the GI Joe sales for the Energon universe are basically through the roof. They're hitting sales points that GI Joe really hasn't achieved in a very, 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 very long time.
That's good. I'm happy for that.
Yeah, and so something is resonating with the audience, whether it's Cobra Law, whether it's just the creating a truly evil character with Cobra Commander, having engaging characters, interesting storytelling. They're definitely doing something that works. Um, I think this book went out on an absolute high note, setting up for Destro #1, uh, coming out in just a couple days. And, I'm just chomping at the bit to read more.
Oh yeah. I used to only go to my comic store like once a month, but since the Energon, I've been going probably 3 times a month.
I will say that May 2024 has been my favorite overall month of Energon Universe storytelling. I think all the books this past month have been like knocking it out of the park. They're like 4.5 out of 5 books, every single one of them. Like, I enjoyed reading and rereading them. I think I read each one 3 times. And not one of them was like, "Oh, I gotta do this one again." No, everyone was like, "Oh, I wanna see," in Void Rivals, "I wanna see Springer fight Proximus." You know, Cobra Commander, I really wanna see just that moment of Destro realizing, like, this guy is an absolute mastermind, evil genius. He's gonna make me loads of money, but, this guy I gotta be careful of. And Transformers was just, knocking it out of the park. Just every one of these books has just been so cool to read.
Yeah, I mean, no disappointments whatsoever. And I love the fact that they can take a C level character like Mercer and make him interesting. I mean, just totally change up how I've always seen Mercer. And
Yeah.
I know I'm not doing it justice by what I'm saying, but
Well, we might see the effect with prices on the Mercer figure at Joe Fest.
maybe, I don't know. I have one, so I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. So, I think that takes care of May 2024. How about you?
Oh, yeah, it was a great month.
So this has been the Chaplain's Distance Motor Pod. I've been your host, Gary,
And I'm Casey.
and thank you for listening. Please like, share, interact with this podcast on the podcatcher or service that you've listened on. It only helps grow and improve this podcast. For more Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod, you can find me on social media at Chaplain Joe Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and sometimes other social media as well. You can also send an email at chaplainjoepod@gmail.com.
And you can check podcasts from the pit out on YouTube or Instagram or any podcatcher out there. We also have email podcastfromthepit@gmail.com. If you want to talk toys, not just G.I. Joe, I mean, I do a little Motu. Just hit us up. I just love talking toys and comics and movies, anything. A little anime here and there. I'll talk to you.
And then just one last thing. The Chaplain's Assistance Motor Pod is the strange, but not estranged, a nerdy little brother of The Pint, a pop culture podcast. And with all of that out of the way, one final missile for the masses. Be decent to each other. Have a good night.
Goodbye, everybody.